Hi Nandini,
Hi Aditya.
welcome to Sudeep Audio's channel.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you and talk to you and know more about you. And I'm sure a lot of viewers are keen to know who this JIMA award winner is. Of course, you've been around for a long time, but these kind of incidents and awards bring us more, kind of love and affection from the industry itself and fans, etc.
Yes. Actually, I think I was just born into music.
Okay.
Or born with music. It was like very natural, like breathing for me. If there was anything called the first thing I would have ever known, that would be the sound of music. So um, even without knowing too many names, even as a little baby, there were lots of things that I could just identify musical stuff.
Indian
In
music,
terms of
Western.
in terms of notes, in terms of ragas and stuff like that, songs associated with specific ragas, stuff like that. So my mother was a classical musician. She's no more, of course. Um, she she was trained in Carnatic. She was a Carnatic vocalist. She was also a Hindustani sitar player. So um, my upbringing throughout my childhood years was essentially listening to a lot of Carnatic, a lot of Hindustani, and my mother was also very fond of Bach and Beethoven and Mozart.
Okay.
So there was a lot of Western classical music also going around in the house. Then also there was this uncle of mine, Raghu, who used to play a lot of rock, blues, and jazz. He used to blare. He was the original hippie in the family. So, uh, so on any given day, in my house we could be listening to anything from Carnatic to Hindustani to jazz to rock, blues, classical, and I developed my own kind of a taste for a lot of stuff, over and above what my mother made me listen to. So that was pretty much how it was, and entire childhood was about studying, reading a lot of books, and listening to a lot of music.
Okay.
But taking music up as a career was never really an option. Music is something every South Indian family, they train their children either into dance or I learned to dance too, Bharatanatyam for some time. But
Some form of art.
yeah, it has to be a part of your life. Um, you know, I think it's basically to retain your sanity in life in this world. Films and Bollywood were never a thing in my house. There was never any of that around in the family. Nobody in the family was a film buff. We probably watched one film a year.
Oh.
It's like on Sound of Music or My Fair Lady,
Those kind of movies.
those kinds. So we were never keen on um, film
Films.
stuff, We never really listened to much of it also. It's some old Hindi film song, the black and white
Right.
film stuff. Some of it I would have heard. That too if my mother played it to me. It was more like that. I grew up in Hyderabad.
Okay.
So that was where my school, college, university, everything was. I finished my studies. I did my master's in maths, pure maths, and then I did information and systems management. I got married. I was working for a software company in Pune. I joined the music industry really very late. I met Hariharan quite by chance, and then he heard me sing, and then he got me my first opportunity to sing for a Tamil feature film. And
How did that decision happen? That you were working in a software.
I was working, yeah. The thing is, it was like one of those. He had come to Pune for Pune Festival, Colonial Cousins thing, and there was one gathering that was happening, like a party kind of a thing.
A private.
Yeah, and then there were a lot of people around in that place. And suddenly the lights went off, and then everybody knew Hariharan was was there, and I was a big fan of Hariharan. I still am. And everybody started screaming, "Hari, sing a song." He didn't sing. I started singing. So one of his compositions. And then suddenly the lights came on, and then he saw who was singing, and he said, "I want to hear you sing some more." So he made me sing some more, and then he said, "I don't know what you're doing in a software company, but I think you should be singing." And that's a very, very unusual, straight out of a movie kind of a story. Like it's something that you don't expect to happen in your life. But then he seriously called me 15 days later and said there is this music director in the south called Vidyasagar. He's looking for a new singer for one of his songs. So would you mind doing an item number kind of a thing? So I said, item number? I don't know if I can sing an item number, but I don't mind giving it a shot. Let's see.
So you were open to that?
So I was open to it. So essentially, he's only heard me sing a ghazal, which was more classical based. So I went to Bombay, and he called me a day before, and he was recording one song. He said, "You watch me record. Tomorrow you're going to be recording, so you'll be a little more comfortable with the studio." But the next day I recorded the song. It was a fun experience. I absolutely loved it. And then I was still working for the software company at that time. A year later, the film released, that song became a huge hit. And that was when I realized, it's not so bad after all, for all the things people say. There was a weird kind of a belief, I would say, that Bollywood, people from decent families don't get into Bollywood. There was that kind of a thing. Was kind of looked down upon in a certain sense. This is like really way back I'm talking about. These days things are completely different. I enjoyed that experience so much that I said I want to do music. Maybe not Bollywood, but Bollywood again was not my scene at that time. I want to do my own music. I want to compose my songs. I want to do my album, go on the road, perform on stage with a band, that whole vibe. So that was when I quit my job. I came to Bombay and I did my first demo, went around meeting a lot of music directors. I realized that, it's not... ऐसे वैसे तो first opportunity for singing for a film, आ गया, but, it doesn't mean that you will keep getting those opportunities again and again. You have to be in a place and you have to, do your rounds. It was really very tough, considering you don't have a place to stay. Bombay is a very expensive place. You just quit your job, took up a PG accommodation. And I used to try and save up because I was living off my savings. I ate dahi idli from Shiv Sagar for 4 months for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And that's how I used to kind of, save on money. And then I used to meet people.
You never felt like going back and saying the software line is better? The idli and dahi didn't bore you?
I lost a lot of weight because of that. But then yes, there are many moments of frustration and a lot of unhappiness that happens, and then but that's just the way the industry is.
Right.
It's a struggling
Period.
and my struggling period was like there for a long time. It was not like it was only after I came to Bombay I realized there was an advertising industry out here where you could do music. Before that I didn't even know about its existence. So there are many moments of frustration you go through, because I realized that you cannot try and do something, find work purely on the basis of talent. There's got to be something more than talent. Your PR, your networking.
That's important.
That's extremely important, at least from what I have noticed. But again, there is something else out there. I can't put my finger on it.
Mm-hmm.
People call it luck, um, or fate, or whatever, destiny, whatever it is. Despite, even if you're very talented, it does not necessarily mean you're going to get a lot of opportunities. It's not like people are going to say, "Wow, you're so talented," immediately. Like, that's logical. It's a logical assumption that if you're talented, you're going to get a lot of opportunities. That's just not how it works. In reality. So,
but something in you kept telling you that go on, don't give up, and
yes, pure faith in my own ability to be able to do music. That was what kept me going, despite all the odds. The first time I stepped into a studio, I saw all that equipment, the console, and my mouth started watering. As usual, I have to somewhere, like that physics gets into you, and I said, man, I've got to learn this stuff, whatever it is. So, and slowly I came to know, okay, there is how work happens, and then I picked up as many books as I could lay my hands on sound engineering, on production.
I did all that.
Yes, and I read everything cover to cover. I taught myself production and programming, and I assembled my first computer, and then I installed the software, and
so you didn't want to stick to just singing?
No, I could have never been just a singer right from the beginning. I get too many ideas in my head, so it's impossible for me to just be a singer. Even back then, my idea was to write my own songs and go on the road and perform. So immediately I got into composing and programming. Then I started getting advertising work. Then of course, like meanwhile I was doing a lot of work with Ranjit Parot, with Ashu and Dhruv, and then I also cut a couple of albums with Trilok Kurtu. Then I did WOMAD, some world music festivals and jazz festivals in Europe, Queen Elizabeth Hall and all of that. So those were, that's fusion space, that you work as a vocalist, and there's so much I learned from all of that. But then I had to compose. So I got into advertising. That was the first stepping stone, I would say, to doing full-fledged professional composing, programming. And then once some of my ads actually got noticed quite a lot, and they were loved by a lot of people, I started getting a lot of work. So I kind of sustained myself for the last 15 years actually, in the industry, by actually being a music director, producer, programmer, more than anything else. I remember there was one Onida ad I had done, and those it was a very 1940s, 30s, 40s jazz kind of a track that had to be done for that particular commercial. And I called Vivian Pooja to sing because I thought she suited that, the best. So Vijay Prakash, lots of people I have called for singing on my tracks. But I enjoy doing that. It kind of adds a very different flavor to your music. And then after the last year, I released my album Beete Pal, and I worked on it for 5 years because after so many years of doing this very commercial kind of work, there was a time when I was saying, when there are times when you come back home and think, what am I doing? This is not what I came here for. I came here to do music. Somewhere along the line, all this struggle, pay your bills, that stuff, that thing had gotten lost. And then I used to in my downtime start composing songs, start putting my ideas down. So over a period of 5 years, I collected a bunch of songs, which eventually I finished and released last year.
Okay.
Uh,
We'll talk about that in the next part of the
Now,
next.
vocal arrangements basically, you need to see what your context is. Where exactly is it coming? Is it the kind of vocal arrangements just that only one or two people can stack up, or does it need the feel of a big choir with male vocals, female vocals, everything coming in? So accordingly, then you choose your singers. And if you're using male and female, then you check their voice, and then you write parts and assign a part to each one of them, and then you double track stuff. But um, the most important thing about one of the first important thing about vocal arrangements and harmonies is the parts that you write. Um, Whether you're writing a 4-part, 5-part, 6-part harmony, the point is, what kind of what kind of parts do you actually write? And the voicings, that matters a lot. The second thing is, how does a singer sing those parts? Like suppose in my songs, I sing my own backing vocals and harmonies too, and I stack it up. Now, when you're singing vocal arrangement like harmonies, you cannot sing it like a lead vocalist. When you're singing a song like a lead vocalist, there is a particular way in which you project your voice, and there's a particular way in which you sing. When you do harmonies, the projection is not like a lead vocalist projection, and you sing in different registers. You sing in the low register, the middle register, the higher register. You change the texture. It's very important to do that. Otherwise, the harmonies will not sit together when you try to mix it. Some voice somewhere will stick out of the entire thing stack, and that doesn't sound very good. So it's important for a singer to know how to texturize the voice and make his or her voice sit with the parts that he or she is singing. And the third part is, of course, the mixing, the balance between the various takes that you have, voices that you have. That is very important. That also sometimes when I'm doing just my voice, I EQ the voices slightly differently for two different, say the upper registers. If I sing the lower registers, I EQ them slightly differently so that there is still a sense of separation between the two. Still, they sit together, very tight. It's for harmonies to sound good. It is very important that they sit together with absolutely like one instrument playing a chord. So that's very important. As for composition, it depends on for me personally, how I am feeling at any given point of time. What am I in a mood for? So I don't think composition, I feel composition, So depending on what kind of a mood I am in, sometimes the melody comes first. Sometimes it could be a chord progression that comes first. Sometimes it could be a bass line or a groove that comes first, and then I work over it. So the starting point can be anything, and from there the song gets to be, you add stuff. So maybe I can kind of show you something.
Sure.
Basically, depending on how I'm feeling, what kind of a mood I am in, I start off. Usually, when I start composing, there are no lyrics. I don't think lyrics first. I think melodically first. Randomly, you just probably you can take any instrument that you're comfortable with. You could be comfortable with a piano. You could be comfortable with a guitar. Whatever. Say this is just offhand. I'm just trying something out.
Sure.
rough melody like this, maybe make it groovy. And when I make it groovy, then maybe I'll change the syncopation a little bit, or maybe just leave it like this. And then whatever I played right now was like the first thing that came into my head in terms of chords. You can always like rework some of the chords, like for instance. Okay, this one you can play I can retain the same chord, or I can play I can play this, or I can play, depending on how you like to add the color, or like coming back to like a major seventh from that color. So this little bit of thinking on how you want to add chords and how you want to color it, and then what kind of arrangements you want to put around the song. Do you want percussion? Do you want heavy drums? So like that, the song actually, I take my own sweet time with the song. Like I'll put down a basic idea, my first set of ideas, and then I leave it. I listen to it again the next day, then the third day, and then I will not listen to it for a week. If I like it after a week, then I will proceed work on it. It's I have to. If I don't like the song, then I'm not going to touch it. I need to. When I hear it after a month, also I have to like it. It's like that. So for me, that gives an idea of sustainability of the song. Most of us, we tend to love our own creations. So sometimes judgment. It's a little difficult to judge your own work. You need to step back and then relook at your work. So production wise, then you might want to do something else more interesting. How you want to put the bass lines, how you want to put the groove. Do you want it to be very earthy and organic sounding, or you want to add a lot of electronic instruments? So all of these things happen simultaneously, and then suddenly you hear sometimes, like you're checking out on the computer, you hear some sound, say, hey, I like this sound. Is there some way I can like put this in between, in the song? And then another new idea comes up, from a production perspective. Then you figure out what you can do with the sound like that to incorporate that sound into the song. That's how I like to compose a song.
Thanks for sharing this with us.
Thank you.